some people would say that at least some instances of suffering and of evil are pointless. There's just no point to them. Now, we're going to get to the question of what the point is here in a moment, but how would you answer that question, that some suffering really does seem pointless or even evil in itself?
I think part of the answer to that is God's ways being beyond our ways, because we look at certain things and we say there could be no point or purpose to that, all right? I think a great question to ask of us is a question that I've used, and some of you perhaps have too, in sharing your faith with a non-Christian, which is, of all the knowledge that that exists in the universe, what % of that knowledge do you think you have? And if somebody looks at you and says, oh, maybe no more than 10%, what a ridiculous statement. You have a tiny, 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 tiny fraction of 1%. The most brilliant person who's ever lived, besides Jesus Christ himself, tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of 1%. But let's grant that you are the most brilliant person that has ever been, that you know more than anyone who has ever lived, and let's give you 1%. Now, is it possible that in the 99% of all knowledge that you don't have, that there could be a God who exists? And if the person says, no, that's not possible, then you say, well, sorry, you're just not being rational, because you're admitting you don't know everything, but then when I say, is it possible that there is something you don't know, like God's existence? Well, that same line of argumentation applies to us as Christians. Those sufferings seem pointless. Right, they seem to us. And who are we? We're very small. Our brains are just really tiny. And scientists tell us, in addition to our tiny little brains, we use about 10% of them. I mean, we're using 10% of a fallen, finite, tiny little brain. So the fact that I can't figure it out does not mean God can't figure it out.
That's very good.